Hello everyone, my name is Ismail Shakhtakhtinsky and I'm the principal attorney at IS Law Firm. Today I want to discuss my expectations with you as to what the second Trump presidency will bring in terms of changes in immigration laws, procedures, and policies. Some of it is based on his previous administration, his previous presidency, and some of it is based on his campaign promises during this campaign, this election, as opposed to the previous election, his previous campaign, or two campaigns that he had. I know it's heavy, feels heavy on many of you who are immigrants or who have pending applications, pending asylum cases or cases in immigration courts. But we need to work with what we have, and that's exactly what we will do. Number one, I do want to highlight that contrary to belief of many, Trump, generally, the president doesn't have as much powers as people try to attribute to them. And by that, what I mean is that not only in theory that the president's powers are limited, but also in practice. During Trump's first presidency, we have seen many of the changes that they tried to bring about, specifically enforcement. As you all know, they tried to have a travel ban and so on and so forth. Obstacles in the way of getting asylum in the United States. They tried to eliminate DACA, deferred action for childhood arrivals. Those are dreamers. It didn't work. And it didn't work because there is a judicial oversight. There has been lots of litigation in federal courts, and the federal courts put stops to Trump's policies during his first presidency. So my personal hope is that the federal courts, the immigrant rights organizations will remain vigilant. There will be litigation if during the second term Trump attempts to put unreasonable restrictions on immigration laws, because immigration laws can be only changed by Congress. What I mean by that is immigration legislation, the Immigration Naturalization Act. So it can be changed by the act of Congress. The president single-handedly cannot change the legislation. What the president can do is issue executive orders, or he can try to change federal regulations, which is basically regulations as to procedural aspects of implementing those immigration laws. The good news is that the president's power is not unlimited. There are lots of checks and balances. And during his previous term, Donald Trump's first presidency, most of those checks and balances worked, and there were limitations put on what Donald Trump tried to do. Now, different from his first campaign, when he was promising, travel bans and so on, this time he's promising mass deportations. So we'll talk first about mass deportations. What is expected? What does that mean, mass deportations? Mass deportations does not mean concentration camps. I mean, for some people it may mean, some people may want to see that, unfortunately, but that's not possible, because the United States has robust laws against, in support of due process. You have to have a case, you have to be heard in immigration court before you can be deported, because some people may have permanent residency, or they may be US citizens, or they may have a valid claim for asylum. There is no way that asylum is going to be canceled, again, because it comes by legislation, and only the Congress, the act of Congress, can change it. But even then, it will be violation of the international laws, which is the convention, which is the fact that the United States is a signatory to the Convention on the Status of Refugees, which is the basis of the asylum law in the United States. Mass deportations, what they mean by that is they will ramp up prosecution, they will ramp up enforcement. They will try to deport even those who don't have criminal records, but who are here unlawfully present. Meaning, probably they will start, likely, I mean, that's the only way it would make sense, is they would start with those who have orders of deportation, meaning they've already been through immigration court and they've had their due process, and the immigration judge, after hearing all of the evidence, decided that this person is deportable because he or she is unlawfully present in the US and they don't have a valid claim for asylum or relief under Convention Against Torture. So those will be the first priority, probably. Unfortunately, what it will do is it will probably limit the enforcement against those who have criminal records, who really, truly, deportation of who will benefit the society. But in any case, I think they will try to indiscriminately. By indiscriminately, again, I don't mean that they will catch people and just put them in a bus or plane and send them to wherever. No, there has to be a process. They have to be reported to their government's consulate here in the US. And there has to be some kind of travel document verification that this person can be accepted by the country that he or she is being deported to. And again, the relief in immigration court or right to be heard. So all of this will remain. There will be probably expanded enforcement in terms of raids and questioning by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE officers, where randomly at the workplaces, at the places where it's common that undocumented immigrants work, there will be probably raids in the streets. There will be some enforcement. Again, I don't anticipate the United States turning into this, violent mob of ICE officers going around and questioning every dark-skinned or Asian individual in the United States. But there will be some enforcement. So if you have a deportation order, if you have some kind of, not some kind of, if you have an order of removal from the United States, then you want to be vigilant. And if you have any kind of form of relief you can apply for, whether it's TPS, temporary protected status, or parole or something else, then you might want to consider. The bottom line is actually consider consulting with an immigration lawyer to see what you might be eligible for and what you should be careful about doing so that you don't come on the radar or detected. Now, the number two, what I believe Trump will do as soon as practicable when he begins his presidency on January 20th, 2025, which is about 2.5 months from now, is eliminate prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutorial discretion is a mechanism by which the current prosecutors in immigration court, which we call assistant chief counsel, they can exercise their discretion and agree to dismiss cases in immigration courts because of the instruction to prioritize deportation or the immigration hearings and so on for individuals who are not only undocumented or unlawfully present in the US, but also they have either criminal history or there are serious national security issues, or they have committed egregious immigration violations, such as misrepresenting information or entering into sham marriages and so on. So this prosecutorial discretion has been in place since Obama administration. Then Trump terminated it during his first presidency. Trump's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, terminated this PD during his first term. Now, most likely, it will be terminated again as soon as practicable. So that's what I expect next. Thirdly, I expect that CBP-1 process is going to be eliminated. CBP-1 is an app through which individuals who want to come to the US or flee from their countries and come to the southern border and apply for asylum can through the CBP-1 app, they can register and try to enter the United States. There is a longer wait time, several months now, but most likely the CBP-1 process will be eliminated. And the reason Biden administration came up with the CBP-1 process was because they wanted to put stop to illegal crossings and basically open one channel through which everyone can orderly, as they call it, orderly enter the United States and apply for asylum. And then the US immigration courts would evaluate their case and see if they deserve asylum or not. In doing so, the Biden administration also tightened all of the loose ends, so to speak, all of the other entries into the U.S., where if someone enters without utilizing CBP-1 process, where the Immigration Customs Enforcement has the ability to verify who you are, do some kind of background check. So if someone enters without this process, they're not eligible for asylum, except for limited exceptions. So only in certain circumstances they can be eligible for asylum. Otherwise, if you cross the border now illegally, meaning without CBP-1 process, without being paroled, you're not going to be eligible for asylum. Not only that, but also all of the borders, as we all know, are closed currently. The border is shut down except for that CBP-1 process that is still remaining. So I think what Trump will do is, again, as soon as practicable, and the reason I'm saying practicable is because technically CBP-1 cannot be shut down without opening some other ways of processing asylum applicants, because that was the argument. There is a litigation process in federal courts against Biden administration for restricting asylum for others, and Biden administration's argument is that CBP-1 is a channel through which they can orderly come and apply for asylum, albeit they have to wait for months in Mexico until they're called for their appointment at the border. In practice, the eliminating CBP-1 is not going to be just a one-time thing, because again, that would effectively mean that there is no other means. Nobody can come to the border and ask for asylum. So the CBP-1 will be eliminated, but how they do it, how quickly it's going to be done, we don't know. Asylum procedures, so application for asylum, we touched upon it a lot in discussing the CBP-1 prosecutorial discretion, but there will be some obstacles in terms of asylum eligibility. During his first term, the Attorney General Sessions, which was Trump's Attorney General, issued several, or also Attorney General Barr issued some of the opinions on behalf of BIA, Board of Immigration Appeals, because Board of Immigration Appeals reports to the Attorney General, which restricted some of the eligibility basis for asylum. For example, made it much difficult for the membership in a particular social group basis asylum, made it much more difficult asylum for, women who may suffer violence in their home countries, in the hands of their husbands or family or loved ones. So we're not going to go into details of all those changes, and a lot of those changes were struck down by the federal courts or changed back by the new opinions issued by Biden's Attorney General and the BIA. But there will be probably some of that as well. So in terms of eligibility for asylum, in practice, probably it will remain the same, meaning you have to prove that you have a reasonable chance of persecution based on your religion, ethnicity, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. So that's basis for asylum. That's engraved in the law, and it will stay there unless, again, Congress takes action and makes changes, and that's not expected. And even then, it would be in violation of the international treaties to do so. One thing I do want to report, during Trump's first presidency, many people were asking me, what was my experience and feeling as to the rate of denials of asylum applications, or the behavior or attitude of the officers or assistant chief counsels, meaning prosecutors in immigration courts. And my response has always been that it varied significantly. So it's just I think, well, first of all, these asylum officers and the USCIS officers cannot be replaced by Trump just because of their opinions, plus that he cannot replace those employees at all. By law, he can only replace, the top employees or cabinet positions, appoint cabinet positions. So these officers remain the same. And in terms of how they treat applicants, whether it's for asylum, whether it's asylum officer or ACC, a lot of it was human factor. And in fact, in some of them, I noticed where they were trying to compensate for the harsh immigration policies during Trump's first presidency. I've noticed some of the officers, considerably softer. Again, I don't think they were violating their job duties, but they were much softer, much trying to be as nicer as possible, understanding how immigrants feel during those difficult times. We talked about increased enforcement, processing delays. I don't think the Trump administration will try to cause processing delays, but by nature of their actions, litigation, there will be this roller coaster of changes that we have observed during his first term. There have been bans, and then those bans were lifted by the federal courts. There have been changes, new forms that we had to fill out because they were significantly increased the public charge restrictions, and then those forms were canceled by the federal courts, and then the stay was lifted. So it was back and forth constantly, and this causes significant delays because you have immigration officers at the USCIS processing those cases, and they come across this new procedure, new form, and then next day it changes. A month later, it's reinstituted back and forth. So it causes this delay in the processing of the cases. So unfortunately, I would say that we will probably experience more processing delays. It has been improving. The processing delays got really bad during the pandemic at the end of Trump's first term. Then it got even worse in the beginning of Biden's first term, because during the pandemic, the more the offices were shut down or limited, or the consulates were shut down, the longer it took. But then it improved over the last two years, I would say. It's been improving steadily. And unfortunately, I think those processing delays will return. TPS, temporary protected status, is number 7 in my list. The temporary protected status for many countries may expire during Trump's presidency. For example, the TPS for Ukrainians is about to expire in 2025. And during that time, whether it's going to be extended or not is going to be questioned. Now, there is this caveat, though. I think the extension can be even made by the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, but announced during Biden administration, because of the rule that it has to be announced within, whether it's 90 days or so before the expiration. So it is likely for Ukraine specifically that TPS will be extended, but you never know. TPS for other countries may be extended or not, but I'm sure there will be a little bit stricter, considerations for those. DACA recipients, I wouldn't worry much, because during the first term of President Trump, they did try to eliminate DACA, but the federal courts put a stop to it. They didn't allow. I don't think it's possible to eliminate DACA at this point. They may put some obstacles on ability to renew the deferred action, but you don't know. So we don't know exactly what they will try, or will they try? Noticeably, he didn't mention anything about DACA or restrictions on DACA during this campaign. So what most he was focused on this campaign promising is shutting down the borders. Even shutting down the borders, that didn't work during the first presidency. There was no shutdown of the borders that actually effectively worked. There was a travel ban, which everybody refers to as a Muslim ban, but that didn't work either. It was very brief, and the federal court struck it down. That was unconstitutional. That's not allowed. So DACA, I wouldn't worry too much. Travel bans, as I mentioned, I don't think there will be travel bans. At least that's not what he promised, and at least because he already tried in the past and it was struck down. He was, slapped on the nose, I would say, by the federal courts. If he didn't make promises this time for travel bans, why would he do it? It's just, but you never know with Trump. So, limitations in executive authority, I wanted to talk about that. Well, I did, basically saying, again, I want to summarize that president doesn't have as much power as people believe. president has a lot of power to cause issues and problems. Now you may say, oh, but the Supreme Court gave the president unlimited power. Well, that's different. The power, immunity of not being prosecuted for criminal violations. That's what the Supreme Court decided on. But it's not on the power. It didn't expand the power of the president to do anything over the powers of the legislative powers of the Congress. Those powers remain. Those checks and balances remain. Again, I believe, I know it feels heavy. These are all my estimations. I wouldn't say my guesses, because I have basis for all these expected changes that I believe will take place, or will, be at least attempted to. But we can only work with what we get, and what we got is Trump becoming the 47th president, his second term beginning on January 20th. So we are preparing for this, and we'll fight. We'll fight for rights of immigrants. We'll continue what we do. Probably switch to the next gear, and stay vigilant and do what we can to uphold the laws, and not let the feelings or individual bigotries to affect the laws of this country, and to affect the rights of the immigrants in a negative way. So thank you so much for listening. We'll talk more in shorter videos. Thank you so much for listening. Please click like, please subscribe to our channel, and there's a link below, but it's for the consultation. So you can contact us, you can schedule consultation with me to evaluate your case, to discuss your case, or with one of our experienced attorneys, and we will be happy to tell you what to expect or what you can apply for, and so on. So thank you so much, and have a nice day till the next time.